Hello. Continuing my mini series on forgotten fighters, I want to talk about the great Harry Wills, also known as the Black Panther. He was one of that crop of black heavyweights in the early 20th century whose potential was prevented from reaching its fullest by the color bar of that time. Other fighters that come to mind are, of course, Sam Langford, Joe Jeanette, Sam McVeigh. Jack Johnson, who was recently pardoned by President Trump, is often held up as the great torchbearer of that era, and that's true to an extent, but it sometimes overshadows the other black fighters of that era. And Johnson actually didn't want to fight other great black fighters, which, in my view, should take a few points away from Johnson, because I think any one of those men could maybe have matched him. So, without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about this guy, Harry Wills. Admittedly, I didn't know that much about him until relatively recently, but I'd seen his name cropping up in top pound for pound heavyweight lists, all time heavyweight lists. So I thought, well, this guy must have had something. And both results, the Wikipedia article and the Boxrec article, certainly show a decent record on paper. So there is some discrepancy. Harry Wills was born either in 1889 or 1892. There's some uncertainty about his early life in New Orleans. And like I say, he became sort of an egregious victim of the so-called colour line. Um, and it is said in the Wikipedia article, of all the black contenders between the heavyweight championship reigns of Jack Johnson and Joe Louis, Wills came closest to securing a title shot. So that's quite significant. Um, like I say, he was born either in 1889 or 1892. Um, and his record is listed as either 79 wins, 10 losses, and 4 draws per the Wikipedia page, or 70 wins, 9 defeats, and 3 draws according to or 3 no decisions according to the Boxrec page. Early on in his career, he fought some big names: Kid Norfolk, Bill Tate, Jack Sharkey, Gumboot Smith, Louis Firpo were all there. It was his bout with Paulino Uskudin, the great Spaniard, in I believe 1927 that ended his potential for becoming heavyweight champion of the world. Now, it has to be said that he did lose a number of those fights, but he fought the greatest of his day. To put things in context, he fought Sam Langford, the great Sam Langford, 22 times. That's truly staggering. Um, and Sam Langford's generally considered perhaps the greatest heavyweight who never became a world champion. So that, I think, gives you some context as to how good Harry Wills was. And I'm just going to quote directly from the Wikipedia article here, if you just bear with me. The top black fighters of Wills' era were forced to continuously fight each other, as many white fighters also drew the colour line. As a result, Wills fought the redoubtable Sam Langford 22 times. His record against Langford was 6 wins, 2 losses, and 14 no decisions, although the 2 losses were by knockout. He beat Langford 3 times for the coloured heavyweight title, with Langford winning back twice. He was forced to vacate his third title when he fought Jack Sharkey in 1926 and was lost the bout due to a disqualification. Wills also defeated coloured heavyweight champion Sam McVeigh 3 times and fought 2 no decision bouts with Joe Jeanette. Of course, Jeanette and McVeigh had fought one of the bloodiest and longest fights in history in Paris in 1909. In 1926, he would have had a world heavyweight bout with Jack Dempsey. And the article goes as follows: Midwestern boxing promoter Floyd Fitzsimmons rendered a check to Wills for his fee, but failed to produce even a down payment for Dempsey's much larger fee for a bout between the two fighters, who had, in July 1925, signed an agreement for a 1926 title match, which never materialized as a result. That's interesting because I'd heard that Dempsey actually avoided black fighters, so I never realized that Dempsey had. Well, the article goes on to say Disagreement had existed among boxing historians as to whether Dempsey had avoided Wills, though Dempsey swore he was willing to fight him, as having said he would no longer fight black boxers after winning the title. Wills twice attempted to sue Dempsey for breach of contract over the cancelled bout, which had also been barred in New York State by Athletic Commissioner James Farley, an early champion of African American equal rights. A deadly race riot in the wake of the Johnson Jeffries fight also created reluctance to promote the match, so I suppose they thought there were security issues there. He was quite an eccentric figure, like a lot of those early fighters. He retired from boxing in 1932 and ran a successful real estate business in Harlem, New York City. He was known for his yearly fast, in which once a year he would subsist on water for a month. Wills admitted that his biggest regret in life was never getting the opportunity to fight Dempsey for the title. Wills was confident that he would have won such a match. And looking at his record, I think there's a reasonable chance that he would certainly have been given a decent shot. Wills died at Jewish Memorial Hospital in New York City of complications from diabetes on December 21st, 1958, and he was either 66 or 69. Um, there isn't a huge amount more actually on his Wikipedia article, but the photograph, unfortunately, there isn't much footage available of Wills online, but the photograph shows a tall, lanky fighter. Um, and I'd like to know more about this guy, the Black Panther. He was born in New Orleans, died in New Orleans, but Boxrec has him at 16th of greatest pound for pound heavyweights of all time. And I have seen him higher. I have seen him as high as 10th. So, yeah, that's Harry Wills, the Black Panther.